Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Kiki, can you confirm it's recording for me? I think it's recording. I'm trying to make sure. Yeah, it's recording. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is a Balloon Foundation bi-weekly Monday webinar. But today we're focusing on the topic. It is nice to see all of you on mastering grant writing. For those of you that are like regular on this platform, we want to welcome you. For those that are joining us for the first time, we also want to welcome you. Thank you for joining us. If Kiki or Dr. Sunday can help me repost the attendance, that will be very helpful. Okay, we're gonna get right at it. Mastering Grant. Oh, let me introduce myself. I'm Sherry Adeosun. I'm the president of the Loan Foundation. So even as I share this with you, I'm sharing from my experiences how I was an I didn't know anything, a novice in grant writing. And I won't say I'm a master at it, but I will say that some of the work we've done speak for itself. We've been able to really be successful in so many areas. So that's why I feel like the kind of challenges that I had at the beginning, not being told by people that this is not possible, you can't do it, you have to be an expert in this, an expert in that. But we'll learn a couple of lessons along the way that we would like to share with you. So let's go along. So the first thing we want to look at is, even in this webinar, what do you want to get at the end of it? The first thing will be understand the component of a winning grant proposal. What does it entail? How do people get these grants that we're talking about? Learn how to align your proposal with a funder's priority. You're going to find out that a lot of funders, all of them, they have their priorities, they have their mission, they have their vision. So you, if you want to be funded, you have to find funders whose mission and vision align with yours and yours align with them, and they are waiting to fund you. And then you have to tell them, how do you want to carry out this work that they want to do in the community that they can't do? They have the money, but they can't do it, right? And you're going to discover the tips to strengthen your narrative, your budget, and outcome. So you want it to be accept. This grant accepted. You don't want it to be a reject, right? You don't want it to be rejected. You want it accepted. So what are grants? I think it's important to just define it. It's a financial award given by a funder to support a specific project or a particular purpose. There are different types. There's some that are released by the government, some by foundation, private foundations, some by corporate organization, and some by the community, and there's some that are like by individuals sometimes. So they usually restricted. They have very strict guidelines. They are outcome driven and they are time bound. There's really never a grant that is like forever. Maybe a year, 6 months, 5 years, whatever the time is, and that's what really drives it. So a little bit about some of the terminology that you may see. LOI really means letter of inquiry, and also RFP, which means request for proposal. Some grants will request, they have like two levels where they will ask you to write a letter of inquiry. And the letter of inquiry at times is something that is self-populated on their website, and you go to their particular website and then you just follow the instruction on that particular website. But the main purpose of the letter of inquiry is for the funders to determine, do I really want to consider this person that is seeking this fund? It helps them to narrow the pool where they can actually try to select from. And there's some funders where the letter of inquiry is like not mandatory. They say you can write a letter or you don't have to. So even though it says letter, it's not really a letter. It adds more to it than letters. Then also we have the RFP, which is a request for proposal, which is sometimes it could be 20 pages, 50 pages, or 60 pages, sometimes 100 pages, that talks about what this organization wants to fund and their focus, and it goes into details depending on the funders. For the federal and the state grant and the city grant is always very detailed, and they go into details of what they're expecting you to do, why they're doing, the reason why they're actually releasing the request for proposal. So, of course, the first thing you want to do is to read the funding guidelines. You want to read it in details. As the leader of your organization, you want to be the first person to look at it and read it, or if you have a team that works with you. So it's important for you to read it and determine the first thing, your eligibility. You don't want to go to all the stress trying to write a grant that you're not eligible for. So whenever I see a grant, the first thing I do is I go first to, like, what is this grant talking about? What is it for? Then I try to determine, does that align with what Relum Foundation is doing? Because most of the time when I write for Relum, what we're doing. If it doesn't, then if it does, I'm like, okay, good. Then I go to the eligibility. Are we eligible for it? You go to the eligibility section to determine if your organization is eligible for it. Then there's a narrative requirement. There's the requirement with attachment. Then you want to look at the deadlines. Deadlines, very, very important. Because you don't want to start doing work and like, when is the deadline again? And you've done all this work and you pass the deadline. And the deadline will also help to determine how fast you have to work. And also looking at the grant with the deadline, you can determine, like, you know what? I don't think we have enough time because this is a huge grant. It's going to take a lot to write. The deadline is too close. So you want to be realistic and see what you or your team can handle, even when you're approaching these different grants. Then also you want to look at how to submit the grant, the application. Where am I submit application, the application? Because a lot of the grant, they're very different. I know you're gonna hear from Ms. Delgado in a little while, and she will share some things from her own experience with you. And I'll tell you how she started, and it's really a wonderful story. So you're gonna have to determine, where do I put this grant? Where am I gonna submit the grant? Because most of the time when you start to work on the grant, a lot of the grant submittal area is not advisable to work directly on them. Because some of them you can't even save and continue. So you want to open up a Google Doc or whatever doc. I love Google Doc. A lot of people can work on it at the same time. So we want to open it up and start working on it. And then when it's time to submit, you just want to do copy and paste based on whatever the website is requiring. So you want to schedule a meeting. Very, very important. Because if you're not a one-man show and you have other people working with you in your team, you want to schedule a meeting with them, and you want to do what is called like grant reading. You can ask your team to read it ahead of time. And when you have this meeting, whether it's an in-person meeting or a meeting on the Zoom, you want to look at overall what this grant is requiring you to do. I see someone in the waiting room that is requiring you to do. So of course, we spoke about the LOI, the letter of inquiry. You have to, most of grant proposal, what it contains mostly this thing that are listed here: executive summary, statement of need. Statement of need is, what is the gap you're trying to fill? What is going on in your community or in your area, on your city, that you're trying to fill, or a gap that you have been feeling and you need funding to continue to do it. So the narrative will be different based on the situation. Then program description, that's a big part of it, because you have to be able to tell that story of how it's going to play out. Remember, this beautiful vision is in your head based on the grant you saw, but the person that's going to read it, they don't know you from Adam. They don't know your grant. They may never see you. So you want to be able to tell a compelling story without being too much. You want to pick the right words, and you want to have that project narrative that they'll be like, wow, I get the picture. Almost something like, write the vision down, make it plain, so that when the funders see it, they can run with it and send some money your way, right? So you want to think about your goal, your objective, your outcome, the budget and budget narrative. Very, very important. Your organization background. What is the history of your organization? How long have you been existing? What have you been doing? And you want to try to incorporate some data into what you're doing, because data from past work is very essential for a funder to say, you know what, you have done it before. Wow, I think I can trust you to do it again. So you want to show that data. You want to also put what are the tools you're going to use to evaluate the work you're doing. Because that's important. You do the work, you evaluate. Just like when you give a child, you teach them some lesson in school and they do a test, right? Dr. Latte, right? All your students and Sister B, Minister B, all your students, they get tested. The same thing, you write a grant, you start to implement the grant. There has to be progressive evaluation to be able to assess the plan. The other thing that a lot of funders also love is the sustainability plan. Like this plan you have in place, if this grant we're giving you for 5 years or 3 years end, do you have the ability or the idea to sustain the work you're doing in the community? Or is it going to be cold turkey, boom, the work ends? No, they don't want that. So you have to have an idea of sustainability and sort of find a way to weave that into what you're writing. And then a lot of grants also have areas where you have to attach, if you're a non-for-profit organization, your IRS letter of confirmation, of determination, letter of support from different your people you have collaborated with in the past, because that's also important that funders look for, especially big funders. They want to make sure that you're collaborating with other community-based organizations, you're collaborating with faith-based organizations, because nobody is an island. When you work together with others, you're more impactful in the work you do. So these are some of the things and the elements that should be in your proposal, and you should be thinking of that even as you're going forward. Okay? So preparation of all, so like I said earlier, after you have read all the RFP, the request for proposal that have been released, after you have read it and you feel like it aligns and is something that you can deliver, because you don't want to overpromise, something that you know your organization can deliver based on the time frame. Because sometimes I'll look at some grants and I see the funding attached to the work. And I'll look at it sometimes with myself, my husband, or Dr. Crony, and we'll be like, oh no, this money is too little for the work they're asking us to do. This doesn't make no sense. And we just put it aside. So you have to be able to make that kind of determination. Don't be too money hungry to take on a grant and then you get it and you realize, oh my God, I can't implement it effectively because the money is so little. So when you start writing, you want to have a skeleton of narrative, a narrative skeleton, a blank Word document, and you want to put in the essential part of the RFP. For example, there's scoring criteria. There's some of them that they are very specific. They will say font, 12 font, Roman, whatever, very specific in what they require and how many pages, no more than this amount of pages. So you have to like look at that. Like I said, I prefer Google Doc and OneDrive, something that other people in my team can have access to and we can work at the same time. And the approach that we have is we always just divide the work. So after we do the initial meeting that we sort of look at it, or people look at it individually and we come together and we just do some division. You do section 1A to C, you do section C to D, and everyone will do their section. And 9 out of 10, I will go back and sort of bring everything together to make sure that the story is cohesive and it's making sense. So you also create a schedule for yourself or for your team. It's important to create a schedule, especially for people like me and my team that we are so busy and so many things is pulling us in different direction. So we have to create a schedule, create a calendar schedule where we know, okay, we're going to talk about this, we're going to work on this day. And also it's important to also know the different deadlines. For example, we have a grant that is due in July. So we're gonna come up with a deadline like by this day, this should have been done, that should have been done. Because you don't want to be submitting your grant the day before. You want it to be ready at least a week before. So you can read through it, go back to the RFP, make sure you're answering all of their question, not the question in your head, the question in the RFP. Make sure it makes sense. And also have another person that wasn't part of the writing process review it. Because the person that will be reading it is not going to be people on your team. Somebody totally different that may not have heard about your organization before. So you want an outsider to review it and they can give you the insight. Narrative requirement, I spoke about attachment, the deadlines, and how to submit. I think we did all of that already. So now, writing a compelling statement of need. Remember, I said the statement of need is specifically addressing what is the gap that is in the community or in the particular demographic, or something that you notice, that a problem that needs to be solved. How do you want to solve it? How does the grant RFP, request for proposal, really like put a light bulb in your head, like this is how we're gonna solve it, or this is how we have been solving the problem, but now you want them to see that the pathway you have aligns with the RFP they have released, and therefore they should fund you because you deserve it. You've been doing this great work in your community. Describe the problem your project addresses. Use data and storytelling. Very important. Demonstrate the urgency and the alignment with the funders' priority. Because the funders don't really care about your organization, really. They care about their own priorities. You have to now show them how their priority aligns. Like, I will do the work for you. You give me the money, you got the money, I can do the work. And then the work will be done. So don't assume that they know the community you serve. Also, you want to put statistic about your community. You want to say the community we serve is Far Rockaway and South Jamaica, which is 25% African American and 15% this and that. And all those information, the public knowledge. You can search Google and find those informations. So you want to put those information in your RFP, in your statement of need, even as you move forward with your writing. So your project narrative, clear goals and SMART objective. And I will explain what SMART means. And I know some of you know that already. Activities and timeline, I spoke about that. Staffing and partnership. So a lot of them want to know, what is your current staffing? So even if you don't have enough staffing to carry out the work, you can say to be determined. Right now, I have 4 staff. But when we do this project, I will need 10 staff to carry the project out. So these are the title. So those other 6 people, they are to be determined. I don't have a name for them. So it's okay, you can do that. They want to know that you have the complete story of how you're going to carry out this work. A clear connection between the problem and the solution. Remember that gap? We want to fill the gap. Problem, solution comes together. Now the bridge is good. So be detailed, but still stay focused within whatever is required. You don't want to say the same thing over and over again. So what is SMART objective? That means what you're writing is specific. It can be measured. It's not just, oh, we'll support all the community members. No, how many community members are you supporting? If it's something that's gender specific, it's something that is age specific, you want to be able to give that data. Or we'll be able to support in 1 year, we'll support 1,000 African American in the New York City area, right? Achievable. You don't want to say in 1 month we support 1 million people. That's not achievable. You want to make sure it's what is achievable. It's relevant. It's relevant to the RFP and the vision and the mission of the funders and the work you are doing, right? It's very, very relevant. It's time-based. What is the time period that you plan to do this? So you want to be intentional about mentioning that. Get it? So the other thing that you need to do is to build a strong budget. You want to match the narrative. Every dollar has to tell a story, because the funders, they're giving you all this money. They want you to be accountable, so you want to show that part of the accountability even in the budget narrative and telling the story. I'll tell you the story. There was a grant we wrote for the state. The beauty about the state funding is when you write a grant, if you don't get it, most of the time they will say within 15 days of you receiving a letter of not accepting you, you can write them and say you're interested in meeting with them and trying to find out what are the areas you could improve on. So this particular grant, we wrote it, we didn't get it. It was like a crazy monster grant because it took us about maybe 4 or 5 weeks. I think Ms. Delgado was on that grant. And then after we finished, and we didn't get it, but we're able to have a meeting with them. So, and in that meeting, you can bring all of your team to meet with them. It's a training section, so to say. And they don't go in details through the work you have submitted, but they will tell you that these are the areas you could improve on. And one of the areas they told us, they said, you wrote a great grant, But one of the areas you need to improve on is in the budget narrative. And them telling us that we wrote a good grant was encouraging. We're like, okay, we're on the right path. We're doing it. And then the next grant we wrote, we're able to put in all the inputs that they gave us. So whenever you write a grant and it gives you an opportunity to have a post meeting, don't be too sad that you don't get it. Yeah. Grant writing is not for the faint at heart. You have to have a strong skin because you're going to get a lot of no's. But all those no's will not matter when you get your 1, 2, 3 yes, and you'll be good. So there are different categories in the budget: personnel, fringe, travel, supplies, equipment. Budget narrative, I spoke about, are very important. Explanation for every line item. Round numbers wisely and avoid padding. Don't pad the budget. Do your research. If this is not your strong area, bring a consultant, someone that can help you to put it right way. Okay. Evaluation and sustainability. I spoke a lot about this earlier. How will you measure your success? How will you measure your success? Is it just by the words of mouth? How are you measuring your success? Are you using survey? Are you using focus group? So there are tools out there that you can use to measure your success. You have to use both qualitative and quantitative method, right? How did it make people feel? What are the changes that happened to them? Then what are the numbers? That's the quantitative part of it. What happened when the funding ends? Sustainability. What are you doing when the funding ends? So you want to be thinking about that because you want your work to continue. What are you going to do when the funding ends? So funders want to see your long-term vision. They want to see the long-term visions. Tip for success: follow direction exactly, customize each proposal, use active language. There's so many tools. Those of you that use AI, that you can find about what is active language. Use active and not passive language. Proofread carefully and also submit early. Develop a grant calendar and a proposal library. So as you're writing different proposal, what we have is we have different folders: mental health, whatever proposal, mental health, education that we're writing, or health. We just have it categorized in our folders. So whenever we find a grant that relates to any of those areas, we just go and because you don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. If what you've written about, you have something already, you can just change it and adapt it to fit that particular RFP. Okay, common mistakes: vague language, budget inconsistency. If you don't know how to use Excel spreadsheet, hacks, I want to help you because there's nothing like calculating and calculating wrong. That happened to me one time. I don't know what happened. I was supposed to put 29% as fringe benefit and I put 19%. That's a lot of money that cost, and the budget was approved, but it was 19%. So yeah, so it's important to look at it, have someone else look at it, so you won't make those errors. Because if it gets through, then that's what you have. Whatever you put in is what you get. But if it's a calculation error, they're gonna see it and correct it. And you don't want to be your funder that's finding out those kind of mistakes. Missing documentation, you want to have a checklist. There's some grants that will have a checklist. If they do have one, make sure you use it to make sure everything has been submitted. Ignoring the funder guidelines, no, don't do that. Overpromise it. Don't overpromise. Just stay within the restriction. Don't think if you overpromise that will make them want to give you the grant. No, because they have other they're comparing. But if your own is a negative outlier, they'll be like, how is he gonna be able to, how they are gonna be able to do that? That doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, they may just bypass you. Resource and tools. So for those that may be starting early, just starting, these are some places you can go to look for grants: Foundation Directory Online, grant.gov, Instrumental. I just found out about this one. I'm going to go check it out. While I was doing research for this work, that's when I found it. Grant Station, local community foundations, and the state where you live, they have their own grants. City have their own grant. If you're relating to health, there's some grant with health, there's some grant relating to education, and you can just filter that way. Okay, we're gonna say questions and answers. Questions and answers. And before we do that, just want to let you know I'm gonna put something in the chat, which is for those, because we're not gonna answer everything here. So for the next maybe 6 months, I'm gonna have my calendar block for 2 hours on Wednesday evening and 2 hours on Saturday for those that need consultation. So you can book a 30-minute section, and then I'll just sit with you and walk you through whatever the questions you may have. So I'll put that in the chat and you can just book a slot. So I'm gonna hold on one second. Let me stop sharing for a minute and change the settings so you guys you can raise your hand if you have questions. You can unmute yourself, raise your hand if you have questions.
Hey everyone, good night. I have two questions, and you probably went over this already, and I was kind of occupied with my baby, so I don't know if I just missed it. But I have a school club that I run with girls. My sister's keeper. It's now I guess New York State has officially launched it, but we don't know if we're getting when we're going to be able to get grants from them. Do you know if there's any grants available for like school clubs? I don't know how that works, and how can I find them?
Okay, so it's a long answer. So just my number. Call me and we'll talk about it. It's a long answer. But
Okay, cool.
the short version of the answer is you can check the website. So they have a new website. It's grant.gov. What's the new website, Sister Delgado? SFS. SFS is a new website that they have, the New York State.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, before we take the next question, I'm gonna let Sister Delgado come and share some things with you, and maybe share some things to add from what I have said, and it's a true story of how she started writing grant. Now she's a pro leading the grant team in Foundation Church. And when she started, she used to like help me proofread when we just do anything regular. And when we're gonna go deep into the grant writing, I reached out to her and she's like, I don't write grants. I don't know how to write grant. I said, can you read? Can you research? You know how to proofread? You know how to follow instruction? And she said, yes. I said, you got it. We're gonna work together. So what I'll tell you is learning how to write grant is by doing it. By doing it. Continue to do it. Continue to do it. So if you want, you can join my team. You can join Beverly's team. And I also have Sister Alicia Jones, who's also president of a non-for-profit organization. You can join a team. And that's how you're going to learn how to write grant. Over to you, Sister Beverly.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Dr. Sherry. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to embellish a little bit on the information you gave regarding candid.org, since I've spent a few months on that website through Foundation Directory. It is a paid service for a year if you would like to sign on, but in the meantime, they offer free classes online. They are self-paced, and there are also some that you pay for, and they are instructor-based. But they are very informative, and you can get quite a bit of information from there. So I would suggest them for those of you who are looking for grants. And also regarding the request for proposal. Request for proposal is an invitation from a funder to anyone who might be interested in getting funds from that particular organization. But there are also, and that's reactive grant searching. Proactive grant searching, you can initiate your own search. And one of those places is candid.org. You could go there, you could go to Instrumental. You have to be specific. Instrumental is faith-based organizations. So if you're looking for that kind of funding, that is a good source. So just those 2 points. You can wait for a request for proposal, or you can Google search. You can candid.org. There are many ways to look for grants. They're out there. Just be specific in what you're looking for. And to take some of the mystery out of grant writing, when I got started, and like was already mentioned, the best way to learn it is to do it. You really have to practice. You have to read a lot. Just be ready to read, be ready to talk with your team members. It is a team task. Make no mistake, you cannot do it by yourself. 3 or 4 people, 4 or 5 people, and everyone should have a specific role. And that's not to say that everyone can't do research, but certainly you should have a good budget director, someone who really understands numbers and how to put a budget together for a project. You need proofreaders, you need people who can research, and someone who can hold the team together. So staying in touch with the team and deadlines and that kind of thing. I think some of the mystery in grant writing is that people don't understand the process. I know I didn't. I speak for myself. It could be overwhelming if you don't know what to expect. And it's this big, scary thing sometimes, or that's how people see it, because they don't understand that it is doable. If you can write, you can read, you can understand, you can comprehend, you can write a grant application. You just have to commit to the process. And I think that is one of the most important components. You have to commit. Sometimes it's a sprint where you think quickly and move quickly, and other times it's a marathon. And you really have to stay with it until you have completed the project. So keep that in mind. It is not for, as we heard, not for the squeamish. You really do have to dig in. So pick out a project, anything that you might be interested in, and look for a grant that you believe you could write, and practice writing it. You can set your own timeline for it and pace yourself so that when you are writing it, you get a feel of what the process is like. So if it's due in 2 months, put a date on the calendar and follow the protocol for the grant to make sure you're getting through everything. And be careful with things that may seem ordinary or things that you should know. For instance, an employee identification number. That is your corporation's social security number, for if you want to compare it that way. Make sure it's correct. Make sure numbers are not transposed. Believe me when I tell you, things like that can hold you up. I had a personal experience with that, and could not figure out why things were the way they were. But be careful with things that seem ordinary. So check and double check. When you have that practice grant, write it as if you were submitting it. Pay attention to small details because they are big. Things like character count. Characters is different from word count. Characters is every letter, every space, every punctuation mark. And sometimes grants will ask for, or will qualify you only if you follow the character count and the word count. So be careful with that. Word count is, if it says 300 words, it's 300 words. If it says 300 characters, that's very different. So just be aware of that. It's very important detail. The other item, answer the question. I know that sounds obvious, but when you are given a question on an application, answer it right away. Make your answer the first sentence. Instead of you put all of your dressing at the beginning of the sentence and then your answer is buried 2 sentences down. Answer the question right away. Speaking on the budget again, if not the most important part of your proposal, it is the next most important. Your budget has to reflect your narrative and what you have written in your proposal. It has to match every line item. So if it's a $300 line item, you've got to describe it, and then you've got to make sure your budget reflects it. So that's an important tip to remember. It is very specific. Grant writing is very specific, and it is worth knowing how to do it well, because otherwise you are just wasting your time. Does the suit fit? And by that, I mean, make sure you have the right grant for your organization. And I'm sure Dr. Sherry mentioned this. We can get very excited sometimes because the money looks good, but the money should be secondary to the project and how it fits your organization. So be careful of that. Be mindful of that. And I believe those are the points I wanted to cover. If there's nothing else, or if anyone has a comment or question, I'll see if I can answer it.
Thank you so much, Sister Beverly. So any comment or question from what you said or what I said? Any comments? I see Ms. Jones in the room. She's also has written several grants. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Jones from New Beginning Center of Hope. Do you want to chime in for 3 minutes? Go ahead.
Yes, I think this is a great seminar, and it's very needed because there's a lot of money and funders for the good work and the calling that God has given you to do. And the enemy will always make you feel like you don't know enough to do it. But as Reverend Sherry said, all you have to do is start, put pen to paper. So my 3 points is I like to use something that gets me encouraged. So when you go toward a grant application, you just try to win. And win means you start to write. You're going to start writing your grant even before you see any application. Because the first thing is you have to learn how to tell the story of your organization well, and the impact you have had and the impact you would want to have if you were funded properly. So you can write that at any time. You don't need a LOI in front of you. Just begin to write. Learn how to tell your story well. Reverend Sherry talked about one grant. It was beautiful. It was pristine. And the one thing that they said was the narrative. So the narratives you can work on whether you have an LOI in front of you or not. Just practice writing your story. Practice writing the need. Practice writing the things that you have done and the things that you intend to do if you are funded properly. And then have that on the side. So that's the first thing, and win. Just be prepared, and it's nice to write when you're not under pressure, when you don't have a deadline, right? When you can go sit in the park, you can have a sandwich, you can drink your water, you can just relax, and you can think and pray and just write. And then when you get that grant, you say, hey, I did that last month. I take it, copy and paste it. So, and then also I, I means impact. Always look for the way you are positively impacting our community and jot those things down. Jot the date, jot what happened, jot the participants situation, and then have that as a running list. So with New Beginnings, I know that we have a lot of qualitative data because we traffic in saving and improving lives. But if I just give numbers and statistics, it don't look like we did much. But when I have that narrative that I remember and that I've already documented, it gives a great impact. Okay. And that's what the funders wanted to see. If they want to see that if they give you money, it's going to have a sustained impact and transform lives in one way or the other. That's why they're giving the money. So just like with your narrative, you can write impact anytime it happens and keep a running list and keep it in a file. Now, it depends on what your organization does. We have three programs at New Beginnings: Affirm, Advance, and Abundance. So anytime I have a positive impact in one of those programs, it goes into the file under that program. So then when I have a grant, they say, give me an example of a positive impact or transformation. I have it already. I have about 5 or 6. And I just pull the one that I know is going to meet the funders' need in terms of their desire to do good. And then I put it there. And then the last one I would say is N for the win, network. It is so important, like on what Reverend Sherry is doing today, to find out who's doing something similar to what you're doing and find out how they got funded and share with one another. Maybe you have a grant opportunity that comes across your desk that may not be for your organization, but you know somebody who can benefit from that. I got to tell you, with New Beginnings, the first 3 years, I just talked to people. I just talked to people. I didn't know people of wealth or means. And I made friendships with other directors, and they knew people of means, and they had these big grants. And I said, well, how do you come across that? And do you know what? They introduced me to some of their friends and funders. So for the last 5 years, we get about $130,000 because my friends took me to their funders and they just opened the door. They didn't say you have to fund New Beginnings. They just made an introduction. But because I had the W, I had written, because I had the I in my folders, I had impact. Once I had that open door, I was able to go in, fill out the applications, and my friend had nothing to do with that process. That was me being prepared to go through that door that they opened for me. And now we get $130,000 a year that I can count on, which is almost half our budget every year because I had those conversations. So have the conversations. Go in rooms that you are scared to go into.
Mhm.
You might be the only person of color in that room. It does not make you inferior. It makes you God's princess or king in that room. He's opened the door and you're walking through it and you're going to get what you need. But you have to go into the room, be pleasant, smile, make the conversations, make the connections, and then go through the doors that God opened for you. So win, right? Document impact
Mhm.
and then network, and then God's going to bless you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ms. Jones, Reverend Jones. Thank you very much. Really powerful, powerful, powerful. Thank you, Sister Beverly. Really appreciate that. I know you guys have learned a lot today, and network is important. You can't be by yourself. Reverend Jones has made several connect for me and vice versa, and we continue to do it. We continue to talk about it. So we're stronger together and we have more resources when we work together. Whatever knowledge you have, don't keep it to yourself. Share with somebody. you know, even though a lot of people didn't share with me how to write grant, but I'm like, well, since I know everybody around me that want to write grant, they will become a grant writer. Because like Reverend Jones said, there's so much funding out there. There's no reason for anyone to have a vision and not have that vision funded. Because there's someone out there who has that vision and has money and want to fund you. You need to just position yourself so that the fund can flow. Yes. So thank you very much. I'm going to finish my presentation. I have like 2 or 3 more slides and it'll be a minute. Okay. So I just want to share this program with you. It's called Making a Connection. It's one of Relum's new initiative. We're partnering with the Office of Temporary Disability Assistant of New York State, and we're supporting the migrant youth from any that's been in the country for about 5 years, regardless of where they come from. We're supporting them with mentorship, academic support, career development, health and financial literacy, community integration, community education workshop, and supporting them to really be stabilized in this country. And it's for the entire New York City and Long Island. So this is really an amazing, crazy grant, and it all starts from us writing little one. And then we got this one is a 5-year grant. So if you know anyone in your community that could benefit from this, please spread the word. And also this is not just a support for the individual, it's actually a support for their community. For example, if we have a student or a college where there's student there that signed up for the program, we can do workshop for those particular group of people, whether it's a church or whether it's a school. So yeah, so reach out to us. Our information is on the in the chat. So please take advantage of that. So thank you very much. And I'm going to put my booking link so you guys can take advantage of scheduling a time to talk to me, and I will I'll share my knowledge with you. I want to acknowledge before we close this platform, I want to acknowledge the Relum Board of Directors. I see our chairman on the call in the person of Dr. Sunday. Thank you for joining us and thank you for doing tech work. Everybody does whatever needs to be done in Relum. Thank you, sir. And also big shout out to our medical director, Dr. Kearney. She's in the house. Thank you, Dr. Kearney. I don't see another director. I see some of our volunteers. I see Dr. Miller. Thank you for joining us. Well, did I say Miss Natasha? No, she's not there. And all of our regular, thank you. And I see Lady Stephanie, Minister Stephanie from Foundation Church. Thank you for joining. We appreciate you joining us today. So I don't know if Dr. Sunday or Dr. Coney want to say a goodbye or a remark before we close the platform. Oh, I see Miss Sister Tanya, one of our volunteers. Thank you.
I
Dr.
just have just one comment. Also, sometimes when someone puts out an RFP, they will have what's called a bidders conference. And at that bidders conference, it's very important to attend because they will go through every single question, every single aspect of the grant from the grant proposal person's perspective. And you need that information to help you write the grant and also to see who else is competing for the grant. And that's important information for you as well. So that's all I wanted to add.
Very valuable, Dr. Coney, very valuable information. Yeah, the other thing I also pick up in one of the research I was doing is that you can also find like the contact person or the grant liaison, even before you start applying and reach out to them. Just send them an email. At times, that connection helps to make your foundation stand out. So yeah, that's also another approach that I've heard. Dr. Sunday, close greeting.
Well, thank you so much, Madam President, for this grant writing. I feel if we had the opportunity to go to a webinar like this, we would have done tremendously well. But I just want everybody that's here present to understand that they have support in us, and we have been able to know some resources, especially if you hear about the budget and all this other stuff. We have a lot of people that can help. So if you want to write any grant, you can reach out to Madam President, and she'll be able to link you up with a lot of people that will help you. And we have those resources. That's why we have to go into our community and continue to do stuff to help our people. So thank you for this, and I hope this more of this will continue in our community to help people who really want to do stuff to have the boldness to go out to go through the door that has already been opened unto them. Thank you so much.
Yes,
And
sir.
thank you for coming.
Yes, sir. And my prayer is that in like a year or so, there'll be at least 3 people on this platform that will come with testimony of how they were able to get this $1 million grant. So bring it back. Don't be like the secret taker where you get the blessing of God and you keep it to yourself. Come back and give a testimony. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you,
night,
Minister
everyone.
Good
Sherry.
night.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night,
Thank
Reverend
you.
Sherry.
Have a
Thank you,
good night.
Ramon.
Thank you.